Hello fellow film friends, my name is Isaac Ward and welcome to Film Fortress. Here at Film Fortress we discuss the latest films and whether they are worth your time and your money. Today we will be talking about Last Night in Soho, which is Edgar Wright's newest film. Should you spend a night to go watch Last Night in Soho? Let's find out. So Last Night in Soho is one of the most different horror films I have seen all year. This is partially due to Edgar Wright's vision. Oftentimes he mixes dark elements with comedy. This film is no different. The performances are also really great. This film stars Eloise, played by Thomasin McKenzie. She's an obsessed fashion student who is trying to get into the industry. In order to do this, she goes to London. First of all, I really enjoyed her interactions with her grandmother. Her character is really innocent in contrast to the rest of the characters in the film. This makes us feel bad for her, and we also feel bad for her because she has a dark past with her family. Her obsession ends up running her life, and she starts to have visions of strange people. One of these individuals is Sandy, played by Anya Taylor-Joy. Sandy has strong ties to the fashion industry, and she's from the 60s. I really liked how Edgar Wright made Sandy and Eloise technically the same person. However, there are some key differences that are revealed around the third act. Some of Anya Taylor-Joy's previous films includes The Witch in 2015 and Emma in 2020. So she does have some experience with horror films, and that greatly pays off in this film. This is because she has some interactions with some very sinister people. One of which is Jack, played by Matt Smith. Jack is one of the most menacing and creepy characters that this film has to offer. Yet strangely, we like him because he's very charming and he has a weird way of drawing the audience in. I didn't like Jack for what he did, but I liked how his character was created. His character is basically a metaphor for toxic masculinity, and that is a big topic that this film delves in. He plays into the psychology of all the women that he meets, and it really becomes apparent when he starts playing with Eloise's head. This creates some very effective scares and intense moments in the film. But with these intense and scary moments, there is also beautiful and light moments. A great example of this is the cinematography of the film. The director of cinematography for this film, Chan Ho-chun, deserves praise for his work in this film. There are some beautiful shots inside the club with mirrors, and the colors greatly contrast with everything that's going on. There are also some great lawn shots of present-day London and 60s London that you can compare and contrast. This makes it really fun when you're trying to figure out what's real and what is not. So this duality of the 60s and the present is a very interesting factor in the film. Edgar Wright does an excellent job changing the tone and changing the music as a result. It really makes you admire the 60s music and the 60s culture, or at least most of it. But as with all decades, there are problems with the 60s. I won't go into detail with these exact problems because they're covered in the film. But as I said, the main one is toxic masculinity. Now, the other great part of this film is the costume design. The costume designer of this film is Odile Dix-Moreau. She needs nominated for an Academy Award for these costumes. I believe that these costumes drive the story and really make the entire movie a great experience. Each costume has bright colors that contrast the darkness around it. For example, Sandy's dress is pink, and that contrasts the dark greens and yellows and reds that surround her. It really makes her the subject of every shot that she's in. And sometimes, the shadows actually create a sinister effect on her, which is on purpose, and it drives the plot. So I'd highly recommend seeing this film for the cinematography and the costuming alone. Also, it's just a great story. It's original, the characters are unique, and there really aren't too many plot holes to be found. The only qualm that I had with this film is that the first act is kind of slow. I understand why Edgar Wright had to do this. It's to set up what happens later in the movie. However, there's plenty of comedy and lighter moments towards the beginning of this film. So this film isn't all dark and scary. However, when the transition happens, it happens with intensity and purpose, which I really admire in a director's vision. His other films like Shaun of the Dead and Baby Driver kind of balance the same darkness and comedy. I'm going to give Last Night in Soho an 8 out of 10. The cinematography, costuming, and visual effects are some of the best I've seen all year. The plot is original, and I really enjoyed all of the characters. It just had a few pacing issues, and sometimes I got a little confused about what was going on. But I'd highly recommend going out to see this in theaters. So what did you think of Last Night in Soho? Is it worth watching? Please let me know in the comments section down below. Finally, for more reviews coming soon, please hit the subscribe button down below. And remember that your opinions matter and deserve to be valued. See you next time.